All right, so we're back live again. My apologies for the technical issues. Sometimes the tech just does not want to cooperate. But once again, my name is Andre Davis. I am a DC mayoral candidate running here in Washington, D.C., and I am currently petitioning to get on the ballot for the June 21st primary that occurs this year. If you have not seen me throughout the city, I have been canvassing, um, I have been walking, I've been petitioning all through the city. Some places that you may have seen me: Eastern Market, U Street, Cardoza Station, 14th Street, Capitol Hill, Columbia Heights, Petworth Station. You've seen me in certain places: Good Hope Road, Alabama Avenue, the Safeways, grocery stores, of course. But tonight, I'm trying to bring people in so that people can sign my petition in case you have missed me. We have some very great news. I will be participating in a walk of my own. So I will be walking throughout all of the 8 wards within the next 3 days. I will walk throughout all of the wards in the next 3 days to speak to constituents, to speak to residents, to speak to people that are on the ground and making the best of their lives here in the district. We talk about displacement in the district, and we talk about residents not feeling as if they are truly valued in this city. And that is something that I would like to change. I think that's something that is critical in this particular day and age. I think it is very critical for us to make sure that we are giving residents exactly what they need, as well as giving them what they want. And oftentimes we've seen in the current administration that we are not always given what we need, and we are not always given what we want. And I think that that is a tragedy in itself. So moving along. I will be into getting into my platform. I'm sorry. Still getting used to speaking on camera in this day and age. Um, I'll be getting into my 7 pillar platform for people who may or may not know me. So we'll move right along and let's get to it. So I'm not going to start with education tonight. I'm actually going to revert and go backwards, or in a not in a chronological order. So we're going to talk about some of the things that I speak on in regards to my platform. So I have a 7 pillar platform, and that platform is city government, public health, economics, transportation, education, public safety, and public health. Those are the 7 pillars. And those 7 pillars are critical in regards to everything that the district is built around, everything that residents need as well as want. They fall within those 7 pillars. So falling within those pillars allows us to basically make sure that we're taking care of residents and their needs. So let's get into some of these. So I'm gonna pick at random. Gonna pick at random some of these pillars, and we're gonna discuss them while we wait for people to come in. If you have not already signed my petition, please do so at the bottom. You can sign my petition digitally online. Your information is securely encrypted. It is safe. No one will have access to this information. Also, your signatures are safe as well. So let's start with city government. That's something that we talk about oftentimes. And we've seen so many of these agencies fail, tremendously fail, not in a slight way or a misjudgment or miscalculation or a misallocation. We've seen these agencies completely fail. We've seen DC Housing Authority. We've seen the DCRA. We've seen DOES, Department of Employment Services. We've seen various agencies completely drop the ball in regards to what they are supposed to be taking care of and the needs of those residents. For example, we are now currently still in a pandemic, regardless of whether people are choosing the option to wear masks or if they are choosing the option to not wear masks. We are still in a pandemic. It is very much still a viable presence of COVID-19 in the United States and across the world. So when we hit this pandemic, the Department of Employment Services was not equipped to handle that. And that is quite okay because no one could have predicted the last 2 years that we would be going through, just in any sense, way, shape, or form. However, to critique the agency, it's taken a quite a long time for them to make sure that they are staying aware, and up to speed with processing claims for people who were unemployed, underemployed, or were seeking job employment. We've seen the American Job Center not particularly be accurate. We've seen the DC database for Department of Employment Services get hacked multiple times. We've seen these things. And that creates a barrier and a sense of loss of trust for residents. We're now sitting, for residents who are, underemployed, unemployed, or seeking employment for whatever mean or new measures of employment. We've seen them not be able to rely on the Department of Employment Services due to its lack of efficiency. So we've seen other agencies where we've seen Housing Authority that has misallocated funds. We've seen, the DC public school system, which is run under mayoral control. We've seen that agency fall in regards to some of the oversight that it's supposed to have in regards to choosing a chancellor, in regards to DC Council vetting that chancellor or having the ability to vet, the chancellor. We've seen the mayor step out of pocket and go above and beyond to make sure that she exerts, in a sense, what I would consider an authoritative power. So we've talked about some of those city government, agencies, but my mantra for this campaign is to act right. It is to act right. ACT. And ACT stands for accountability, communication, and transparency, which is what I believe that this particular mayoral administration lacks, and lacks tremendously lacks, to place an emphasis on it. So I would like to increase accountability, transparency, and equity throughout city government agencies. Being able to, increase the accountability means that we can hold these agencies accountable when they fall short instead of just playing a numbers game or playing a finger pointing game or blame game. We can actually hold the heads of these agencies, which are mostly appointed by the mayor, to an accountable measure. Um, Transparency, increasing transparency. We at this current time have residents who do not have access to internet, do not have access to, computers or digital technology. So they don't receive the emails, they don't receive the hashtags, they don't receive the digital correspondence that these agencies send out. Most people do not even have a house or landline phone in this day and age, and they just simply have cell phones. So most of the robocalls that people are sending out, they don't necessarily go to, the intended recipient. So we've seen these city government agencies over the past administrations. We've seen them riddled with corruption and scandal, and the lack of accountability and the lack of oversight has led to so much more trouble than it has benefit. And most of all of these agencies are essential to, um, the livelihoods of each resident. So they should be functioning properly. So as mayor, some of these agencies that I would definitely tighten up and make sure that they are running, on full accountability measures, full transparency measures, and full equity measures would be, of course, as I've mentioned, the Department of Employment Services, the Department of Motor Vehicles. You have the Department of Health, um, the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, DC Public Schools, DC Housing Authority, um, Department of General Services, which oversees some of these buildings, facilities in the District of Columbia Public School System. So we've seen a lot of those, and I think that we need to revamp all of them, and make sure that they're functioning properly for residents. Let's talk transportation. Transportation is a very big issue, and once again, we've seen so many people, um, not be able to access transportation in its means. We know that we have Metro, but we have seen WMATA suffering, from management issues essentially over the past few years. We've seen them with delayed trains, safety issues. We've seen this over the course of one, two, three administrations. So because the District of Columbia is broken into wards, we need a strong transit system. We need a strong public transit system, but there are still places in the city where residents cannot access public transportation in an equitable fashion. We still have areas of the city where there's only one bus that comes there, and it comes Monday through Friday, not Saturday and Sundays, and it doesn't run after a certain time. There are certain areas where people live in cul-de-sacs, where I call transportation deserts, where there is no circulator bus, there is no accessible metro bus. The metro station is essentially a distance away, and it makes it so that people do not have access to public transportation. And the access or lack thereof access to public transportation affects everyone's livelihood. It affects everyone's livelihood in regards to if I have a job and I'm working in retail. Well, there are no retail stores in certain areas or certain wards. There's a lack of economic development. So because that economic development is lacking or lackluster in that particular ward or neighborhood or cul-de-sac where we have those deserts, people have to travel to get to work. They have to travel into the densely populated areas where these retail stores are where they reside. And that makes it difficult because if I have to catch an Uber, well, we know what's going on in the current world climate right now. We know that gas is up to $5, $6. Uber rides or rideshare transportation rides are up tremendously due to the result of gas being so high. So if I live in an area where there's a transportation desert and I have to get to my job, I am forced to pay $30, $40, $50 to get to work. I spoke with my mother today, and she spoke about having to travel to work, and she said, she doesn't work that far from where she lives. So what happens is it's a 10-minute car ride, cost her $50 today, or back and forth, $50, and that's expensive when you're talking about people who are not making top dollar and they're not being provided with the most appropriate income for the cost of living that continuously rises in the District of Columbia. So for me, there are a ton of transportation issues that I believe that we can face or fix. So one of those issues is we need to work with WMATA to increase transportation services to those isolated and underserved communities because these are residents that still have jobs, that still need to travel, that still need to get around, yet there is no transportation option for them. We need to work with the DC circulator to include routes that offset or that are outside of the traditional WMATA areas of service. And I am a big proponent of providing DC residents with monthly transit credits. This doesn't make the system free by no way, shape, or form. It just provides residents with a transportation stipend or a transportation credit that alleviates some of that financial restraint or financial burden that is placed on them from actually living in a transportation desert or living in a city where we have a transportation agency, but it's costly. The prices fluctuate due to whatever their budget may be or whatever their shortcomings of their budget may be. Those prices fluctuate, which means that a train ride today could be $2.25. Next week, it could be $3.50 for the same distance. So working with WMATA to provide DC residents with monthly transit credits or providing residents with flat fares would be an amazing feat that I would look to explore if I was elected as mayor. I think that we need to invest in a renewed sense of transportation. We need a new sense. Oh, I'm sorry. We need a new transportation workforce. We need to invest in a renewed transportation workforce. That means hiring drivers, training drivers, partnering with WMATA to offset some of those lack of employment. So helping WMATA or these transportation agencies find drivers, find train operators, find bus operators, find people who can work for the system and specifically that come from the district. And also we need to put transportation network companies to work for district residents. Like I spoke about the rideshare companies. There are many of eight cities that have the rideshare companies go through their localized transportation agency to renew their credentials, to do background checks, to make sure that um, everyone is basically being accountable for whatever actions that are being placed in regards to the transportation network companies. I know New York City makes all of their rideshare drivers essentially register with their taxi cab and limousine commission. And that makes it so everyone has a system of who's who in regards to transportation network companies. And essentially, that would help in terms of making sure that we have drivers that live in the district can actually have first dibs on being transportation network service providers in the district versus having out of state drivers come into the district and there is no regulation for them outside of what their transportation network company provides. So that is something that I would look into to deeply make sure that we are giving our residents what we call a fair shot. Let's talk about public safety. Public safety is a big issue in the city, and we don't know. We look at it in regards to we look at we look at public safety in regards to finger pointing now. There are so many root causes to crime that are not being investigated, that are not being looked into. And oftentimes, with the current administration and with administrations that have come before this one, we've not yet addressed that this is a basic needs issue. There is a deprivation of basic needs. Right now, there is a high rise in crime in the city in regards to homicides. Now, I am not the person to completely bash anyone. I am a person that will give credit where credit is due. Most of the crimes, with the exception of homicide and carjackings, are have been down. They've been reduced to reasonable levels, but we still have a high rate of homicides. We still have a high rate of carjackings going on, and most people are continuously blaming the youth. Well, that goes into my later point now. We cannot continuously blame the youth when this system that is being designed is essentially failing them. If you have a school system that is under mayoral control and you don't have the budgets set to where they need to be, how can you blame the youth for diverging away from their education and falling into the hands of life of crime? You can't necessarily say that and say that it's essentially their fault because when we look at it, the school system is not making sure that they're taken care of. We are now in the middle of probably one of the worst exodus of teachers and administrators in the education realm that we've ever seen in probably the last 50 years. And essentially, that is due to the lack of concern with residents, the lack of concern or correspondence with our parents, teachers, administrators, educators, and students, most importantly. We are not taking what they say to heart. The current administration fails on that level tremendously. We've recently seen the DC public school system drop the mask mandate, yet we still don't have certain measures in place to make sure that teachers, students, and staff are safe. We still don't have the space to accommodate outdoor lunches. The weather just broke this week. So by the weather just breaking this week, what we see is now students are able to go outside and particularly eat outside. But for the entire winter, they were indoors trying to figure out how we were going to make sure that we didn't spread COVID. Um, we can't to go back to my point in regards to crime. We can't blame the youth when the system is failing them, and it's failing them at an exponential rate. We're pushing standardized testing on the students. When I was in the classroom, I know that I taught math and science, And I know for fifth grade, both math and science are both tested subjects. So not only would the students have to take a science exam at the end of the year, they would also have to take the PARC examination for both reading and math. Now, outside of those two assessments, they also had to take benchmark assessments once a quarter. So you now have three more assessments on top of those two. So you have five assessments in that year. And then when you are in a DC public school classroom, you know, everyone who knows DC public schools knows that impact is a problem. And when you're in a classroom where impact is a problem and you're pushing to be effective or highly effective because it's attached to a monetary reward at the end of the year, a monetary bonus. So people are aspiring to be highly effective teachers because it comes at $25,000 extra at the end of the year and $25,000 bonus. And a nice ceremony, you know, standing ovation ceremony that people love to go to and love to, you know, have their faces seen. But unfortunately, we see the same faces. Unfortunately, we see the same teachers. We see the same teachers from various or certain wards, and we are not pushing our students in the direction that we need them to be because we're overexerting ourselves. We're making them take all of these standardized assessments, and now with the pandemic, we've even induced more anxiety onto them because we don't know if students are going to be virtual one week or if they're going to be in person. Students are afraid to, you know, take their mask off. Students are afraid to wear their mask. Students are afraid to, you know, go outside, eat around students because there is a general concern for safety. And I don't think that these concerns are being addressed. And I believe that pointing the fingers lacks the oversight and accountability that we're looking for. Let's look at economics. So I spoke about economics, and one of the things that I spoke about today on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, it's at Andre4DC, the number four, and not FOR for Twitter. Someone asked, they said, you know, they took a picture of this old Senator Theater, which is on Minnesota, the intersection of Minnesota and Benning Road, across from the Safeway and Dorothy Height Library. And I spoke to my great aunt who is 94 years old, and she remembers DC from the 40s and 50s. She remembers DC before any of this stuff was here. And one thing she spoke about, I asked her about the Senator Theater, and she likes to tell me little tad bits of history that I like to collect and write down. But someone asked about the history because they said the Senator, the top of the Senator Theater, which still has the actual wording of it, they said it was a great view. And they asked about the history of it. And just being able to give that history means a lot. You know, just being able to know the history of our city, where we started and where we're heading, means a lot. The old Senator Theater was the second largest movie theater in terms of seating capacity in the District of Columbia at that time. I believe it had 952 seats or 934 seats, 32 seats, almost 1,000 seats in it. In the 50s, it ended up being sold, and then it was basically it became what they considered like a black theater, and a black theater where they showed black movies or black themed movies. But that did not necessarily last long, and then after that, it kind of struggled to stay open. There was some back and forth in regards to if it was going to open, stay closed. I'm sorry, stay open or closed. If it was going to be demolished, and I believe it was registered into the Historic Preservation Society, and essentially now it's just a Subway sandwich shop and a beauty supply store, and it's just the front facing of the theater. But I spoke at the Ward 7 candidate forum, and one of the things that I never really got to speak on was the economic structure of Ward 7, Ward 8, and other wards that are in dire need of an economic revitalization. The Senator Theater would be something that I would be super proud to bring back to the community. in regards to bringing it back as a true theater or a playhouse theater in regards to the theater arts. So it doesn't necessarily have to be strictly for movies. It could be for plays. It could be for themes. It could be for events. It could be for meetings. It could be for all types of things in regards to what its former glory was. I don't believe that those two stores in that area, that spacing, should be where it is because that stretch is in dire need of economic revitalization. And if elected as mayor, I would do my best to make sure that these areas are receiving the funds, are receiving the resources to make sure that they are being economically pushed into and not economically pulled or strained. Um, Oftentimes, people make a ton of promises and they say, well, I'm going to make sure I do this. I'm going to make sure I do that. But then you don't see them. You don't see the current administration walking down Benton Road. You don't see the current administration walking down Minnesota Avenue. You don't see the current administration walking in these areas and patronizing these areas where there is need for economic revitalization. Essentially, it goes under the bus, it goes under the rug, and no one pays attention after the votes are collected. So I speak on this to say that within the next 3 days, you will see me walk this entire city. You will see me tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. You will see me walk all 8 wards. I will go places where the mayor does not go, has not gone, and will not go to speak to residents who are underserved, underprivileged, and are in dire need of a revitalization in regards to being a resident here in the district. I am not the particular person who is going to only cater to who I think is going to vote for me. Because if elected as mayor, there are going to be tons and thousands and tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people who may not have voted for me. But that does not mean that I do not serve those residents. That does not mean that those residents' voices do not count. And I think we're seeing right now, we're seeing a nepotistic structure where there is no true concern for residents if you are not beneficial or if you're deemed as not beneficial to whoever is in power at the time. So I want to make sure that I touch on some of these things. Of course, tomorrow we will be doing the same thing at 8 o'clock. We'll be touching base at 8 o'clock. We'll be making sure that we are still going in the petition party. So if you have not signed my petition, right there, right there, please sign my petition to nominate me to be on the ballot for mayor of Washington, D.C. Also, spread the word. My website is right there, andrefordc.com/petition. You can sign it directly from your phone. You can spread it around to your friends, family members. I am the person that is allowing them the access to that ballot. So they just have to fill out that information and sign. And also, within the next 3 days, you will see me in your neighborhood, walking through your blocks, walking around, making sure that I talk to every particular resident that will possibly listen to me, whether it's on Georgia Avenue, Alabama Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue, Nevada Avenue, Wisconsin Avenue, Connecticut Avenue, or any state named avenue that you see in the district. You will see me walking from certain hours to certain hours. So if you see me, please speak. Please be mindful. I will ask you to sign my petition. I may even ask you to record a segment in regards to what you think is the most pressing issue for the district right now. My job is to be a change agent for the people. And regardless of where this campaign takes us, I want people to know that Andre Davis stands for the people. Andre Davis wants to make sure that every resident from Ward 1 to Ward 8 is has an equitable voice in this city, has an equitable standing in this city. So once again, I thank everyone for coming out. Tomorrow we will get into some more topics. But if you have not signed my petition, by all means, please sign my petition right there. Sign my petition, www.andrefordc.com/petition. Spread it to your friends. Tomorrow, I will also be at Pure Lounge. I will be hosting at Pure Lounge tomorrow. So please, by all means, come on out and support. If you don't know where Pure Lounge is, it's on U Street in between 13th and 14th and U, on the side that has most of the not residents, restaurants and bars. So please make sure that you guys sign my petition. Come out tomorrow. I'll be at Pure Lounge, and also I will be walking the city. So whether you're in Ward 1 or you're in Ward 8, you will see me within the next 3 to 5 days walking through your city, going to places and speaking with residents where the mayor has not gone, where the mayor has never touched foot, where the mayor has not seen anything that is going on. You will see me walking around, and most of those people I will be speaking to. I have no problem speaking to anyone on the streets, on the corner, in local businesses. I will be visiting all of these places. And please, if you see me with a camera, it's okay. Make sure that you speak your piece, because I will be recording. I'll be taking those segments, and we can keep it as anonymous as possible if that's what you choose, or you can just give us a small blurb and we can just place your name in there so that people know that no matter what ward you're in, your voice matters. Your voice has equity, has stake in in Washington D.C. in the District of Columbia. So once again, if you have not signed my petition and you are a D.C. registered voter, please sign my petition right there at andrefordc.com/petition. I'm asking that everyone share this. Um, Share the petition so that others can sign it, because we do need 2,000 votes, from verified Democratic registered voters in DC to make sure that we access the ballot. So once again, I thank you all for coming out, and catch me tomorrow night at Pure Lounge. Catch me walking around your neighborhood tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, and catch me petitioning this weekend. If there are any volunteers who would like to petition with me, or if you would like to make sure that you catch me when I'm in your neighborhood, please feel free to comment on my social media, send me a message, a DM, head to my website and let me know where you are located. And that way I can make sure that we definitely touch those areas. And possibly you may be able to join us as we walk through your neighborhood, as we walk the entire city, if you want to do that with us as well. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, everyone who came in from Instagram. Thank you, everyone who came in from Facebook. Thank you, everyone who came in from LinkedIn. And especially thank you, everyone who is watching from Twitter. Thank you so much. My name is Andre Davis. I'm running to be the next mayor of Washington, D.C. And thank you. God bless D.C.